Game reviews. Are there too many of them? Perhaps. Why the hell should I review a game? Because I vibe with the funny. Or so I thought. Okay, now that that's out of the way, here's a game that I like. Well, I say like, but I also like that sugar that my dad left before he vanished. Lobotomy Corporation. The game was developed somewhere in the past. Doesn't really matter when. As we all know, everything that happened before 2020 is an illusion. So why am I reviewing it so late? I need a reason to keep myself going through the content of the game. This is not a passion project anymore, it is a cry of help. Needless to say, spoilers about the game are included, so if you want to play it, then I urge you to try, fail, and come back to me once you're broken. Because its visual style may be misleading, but I assure you, this is not a game for the faint. I would know, I haven't finished it yet. But don't click off just yet, this game is a process. It takes multiple lifetimes to achieve your goals inside the game. Why? Because the story said so. Because if you don't prepare yourself properly, your best chance is to start all over again. What some people may call save scumming, by the end of this journey I call an intended feature. This game has caused me not a small amount of rage quits. Also, you'd better install the quality of life mods if you value your sanity. Remember when I said that this game requires you to replay stuff all over and over? Some people would think this is bad game design. I say it is a rite of passage. It prepares you for what is essentially the story of the game. I had to get my notebook ready, they didn't write a 205-page Wikipedia article for nothing. These guys got inspired by the SCP Foundation, and most of their monsters have some sort of a correlation to one of the creatures lying around there. The monster variety is large, and you'll probably need more than one playthrough if you want to experience all they have to offer. After all, who wouldn't want to experience all the joys of life, such as dismemberment by teleportation? But I digress, let's get back to the story. The year is somewhere far in the future. The main character in this whole plot? You. Or at least, that's what I assume. As in the sequel, you are very much, most probably, completely dead. Most of the world has somewhat vanished. At least, that's what I got from exploring their universe as much as I did. Don't hold me accountable, some lore hitman is out there on my ass right now. But I only have so much time to look for obscure Korean manga. I've got more interesting matters to attend to. The rest of humanity, or probably most of it, conglomerated itself into a single turbo city. Crime is rampant, demands for resources are high, and the corporations control everything.
Wow, it's just like real life, man. What the?
And I really mean it. They don't only control all of the goods and the flow of commerce, but also housing and public services. Because when the people in the back alleys are eating human liver from the stovetop and patrolling around with hatchets as if it's the end times, nothing sways righteous defenders into action more than money, and who can blame them? Aside from unhinged people, you might come across the odd bioterror, demi-human, and anything that your nightmares can conjure. In this whole ordeal, you are lucky enough to work as a corporation director in one of the biggest, most successful conglomerates of them all, Lobotomy Corporation. Ah, what a trust-inspiring name. This corporation's goal? Energy production. And the method of extraction? From the pure unbridled fear of your employees. To clarify, every corporation in this universe has some sort of highly advanced and extremely dangerous technology. These are called singularities, and are kept as an absolute secret. How they came to be or how they were discovered, nobody knows. People that do know these secrets have a large tendency to be removed from existence. So once you're on the inside, you keep your mouth shut. L-Corp's singularity can turn feelings into energy. So naturally, the only course of action is to contain highly dangerous SCP-like creatures and study them. Of course, people are going to get injured or just die, but that is the price they pay when they get a high-paying job. Basically, you are playing Hotel Transylvania, but the monsters are not here to jam, they're here for dinner, and you're the main course. One way or another, something is getting to that liver. Along the way, you get to meet the game's main cast of characters. Angela is theoretically the first in command, but she takes a supporting role and just manages the instructions of the other employees. The rest of the cast are all robots designed to manage different areas within the corporation. As each day in the game passes, you get to have small conversations with each of the Sephiroth. Since there are a total of 9 characters, maybe with some extras along the way, most of the early and mid game is composed of you meeting them. So you could say this game is also a dating simulator. You discover all of their personalities as well as their views and values. However, you can't completely shake the feeling that something is still wrong, even though you know how questionable your like of work is. The environment around you begins to deform and visions flood your mind. It's not looking good. The cute artwork is also integral to the story. It is not only a stylistic choice, but also makes sense in the context of the lore. See, you are referred to as X. At first, the player might not think much of it, but as they meet A, B, and C, the idea becomes pretty apparent. This means that there are a lot of managers which retired before. As a precaution, at some point they installed a profanity filter in the manager's software so that they don't go insane. One particular abnormality even shows up as redacted on the screen, since only seeing the sight of it may drive you insane. Assuming you have played for up to maybe even 100 hours at this point, the ending starts to get near. However, to explain the ending, we need to explain the background story of the whole damn cast. Years ago, they banded up as scientists to create the cure for mankind's sickness. Their leader described this as the apathy and tendency for aggression that the citizens of this city exhibit as a need of survival and self-preservation. Basically, a lack of empathy. They started their research at the edge of the city, which is an area where it's best not to be in. Most people would rather risk their liver than live here. It's so supposedly bad that even the head, which is the leading board of the city, doesn't usually bother with whatever the hell is happening on that side of town. Think of them as the Illuminati of the city, except people know that they surely exist, they just don't know who they are. In spite of their precautions, they still got raided, before the cure could be theoretically spread to anybody. They somehow managed to reform themselves later, even though most of them died. How did this happen, you may ask? I don't know. Some mad scientist may have known the answers, but he lies at the bottom of a pit. Now their minds are trapped inside robot bodies with their ex-leader reborn as Angela. She had to go through the worst of it, forced by her scientist ex-lover, partner, or whatever else, to undergo thousands of years of simulated training until her feelings were numb enough for her to be able to lead the corporation no matter the casualties. Corporate does not mess around when the cash is running low and it was too late to go back on developing slime girls. May God help me on this one. Then, it is also revealed that some of the abnormalities inside the facilities were employees that were driven to madness, which forced them to turn into monsters. They are also stored in a pocket dimension, ready for whenever energy quotas need an increase, which is basically all the damn time. So not only are we farming the employees that are still alive, we are also farming the ones that are mostly dead. Once the energy gathered is sufficient, the building of the corporation starts emitting a beam of light, dispersing the cure through a 5G wireless signal. However, it wouldn't be so easy if that were the end. No, it takes a total of 5 days to completely disperse the energy, during which you will still have to deal with managing the employees, the abnormalities, managing the bloody base going upside down. Now, assuming you managed to survive the onslaught, did everything right, rewinded time with the time warp mechanic so that you could stabilize every member of the team, and guided your company through peril, it is time for you to get your reward. And by reward I mean betrayal, because fuck all the good work you put into it. You see, Angela was so furious on her original lover for what he had done that she decided she would steal the last 3 days of light for herself, undoing the original plan. Understandable, since thousands of years in a hellish simulation, with no physical way to forget anything, will take their toll on just about anybody. It is also revealed along the way that you, meaning X, were in fact A. Some convoluted stuff happened in between, but that is the short of it.
Are we the baddies?
And to clarify, A was Angela's original lover and basically the founder of Lobotomy Corporation, the one that set everything up to begin with. This choice leads to a standoff between her and the Sephiroth. While they were no better off, they decided that the atrocities committed prior will be atoned by spreading the 5G network. The resolution of this standoff, however, happens in the sequel, so you'll have to wait until I'm ready to work on that one. The result, however, is that while the cure was not completely administered, it still had an effect over the population. That came at the cost of being able to turn average people into abnormalities if you could drive them insane enough. And considering we are living in a cyberpunk dystopia, boy did they start to turn. Also, the physical collapse of the Lobotomy Corporation building came with the release of some of the abnormalities, which were more than happy to explore their surroundings. Essentially, the bars of the zoo were off and the three-headed gorillas were hungry. Meat was back on the menu, boys. Not only that, but now you may find that your best friend is chewing onto your leg due to him getting distorted. Gameplay. Okay, the story was convoluted enough, so we're hoping that the gameplay itself isn't as much of a wild ride. Oh god, here we go. It's all nonsense anyway. Allow me to explain this in human words. First of all, as I said, your employees, they're expendable. But not their minds, no. For you see, the new fresh employee that has lived a cushy life until now would probably not be suited to handling the reincarnation of the devil. For example, you might think that it is not a bad idea to send your untrained employees into a room with the newly discovered entity known as the all-purpose helper. Until you realize that the difficulty of the room is yellow, which as defined by the in-universe laws, it's we'll go with pretty dangerous. So the moral of the story isn't to never trust Reddit. There are 4 kinds of work and 5 main stats on each employee. Each stat is related to one type of work, except speed, which is pretty self-explanatory. Each monster responds differently to every kind of work. Performing well will get you energy. Performing poorly will get you energy and a corpse. Perform exceedingly, and you might just figure out what the monster likes, dislikes, their background, pattern of behavior, and what to do in case of an emergency. You may also produce gear related to the monster's stats and theme that your employees can use whenever you have something that needs taken care of. The combat and management are fairly simple. Send people that are adequately geared to perform tasks they are adequately prepared for. Or don't. Should any enemy appear, send a whole damn facility after them. They can't fight if they can't move because of the bodies. If this guy escapes, restart the game. Or discover the myriad of game-breaking mechanics, such as buff stacking, and all the usual shenanigans that involve elevators. Sometimes the game is just made to be broken. In all honesty, the combat is fine, and most of the bosses and enemies have interesting mechanics, provided that you read ahead. If it weren't so finicky and micro-intensive, you might actually enjoy longer gameplay sessions. Can you believe that? There are a lot of friends to manage, and all of them are unique. Some have abandonment issues, some are really hungry, and some are downright bizarre. You'd better be able to handle all of them, because as the day progresses, your facility will have cool-off meltdowns. And you'd better be suited to entering that room, because otherwise, corporate will need to make some sacrifices. Each day, you are rewarded with points that you can use to improve your pawns, as well as new horrors to take care of. They let you choose one of 3 horrors, and they are marked with riddles that indicate what they could do. It's a neat little touch. By day 40, you might even be able to reroll all of them in case you would otherwise be fucked. Let me give you a few examples of management's friends' mechanics. Some range from being completely and utterly manageable to spawns of Satan. And then there's everything in between. Possession is one of the worst. Did that parasite go up someone's butthole? You better check really quickly and closely and wall off the area, or put a bullet through their head. Time gates are the second ones on the list. You better look at them every 30 seconds or so, or 1.2 seconds whenever the game is zooming at 20 times the speed of sound. Automatic escapes and conditional escapes are not so bad, but it depends on whether or not they are actually dangerous when they get out. Insta-kills. Yeah, they're self-explanatory. Other ones? Look, there's a lot of them, just look them up. Once you discover that your first floor is full, you unlock different floors for you to stir your friends. Each floor has their own different buffs and employee list. It can get a bit tedious to micromanage all of them at the same time, but thankfully there is a pause button. Each floor also contains an item that your employees can use. Some are useful and some don't really fit that bill. It's all about experimentation, since in the beginning you don't know anything at all. You also have to deal with ordeals as you complete work around the compound. These are usually combat scenarios and they get harder and harder the more work you complete. They range from harmless toy boxes to giant abominable horrors that haunt the walls of your facility. Thankfully, they are color-coded so you know what to expect. Not that it will save you from whatever there's to come. The Sephiroth add an extra level of challenge by randomizing names and attributes, visual impediments, endless combat. Basically, all the unfair crap that you didn't think could be a problem before has now become a problem. The screen is bleeding, your eyes are bleeding, and they are going all out. Visuals. You have been watching the game for all of this time, so I'm sure you can tell. It looks entirely unique even though its style is not completely new. There is nothing quite like it. The abominations that slip through the walls really give it a sense of scale. While the combat against said enemies might not seem all that impressive, it still feels pretty brutal considering the cute models they're using. The cute horror aesthetic is nothing new, but they executed it flawlessly. The UI design is one of my favorites. There is not much here because most of the gameplay doesn't need UI. It is rudimentary yet stylish and really sells the alien corporate aesthetic. As for sound design, there aren't that many tracks in the game. Most of the game loops along the same track with some slight variations. It doesn't distract you from whatever is happening, but it is a nice beat to place in the background. It is very calming and contrasts really well with the alarm whenever stuff starts happening. I also enjoyed the main menu theme even though it doesn't get used that often, compared to everything else. The tones convey everything they need to and want to without being too distracting. They strike a nice balance between ambiance and intensity. Conclusion. Lobotomy Corporation is a great game. Its story will leave you scarred and wanting more. The gameplay's duress will leave you broken. But it's not about the toughness, it's about the strength of your will. You don't need to beat it, you just need to play it. I guess it is customary for most people to rate games whenever they review them. I hate the idea of rating stuff out of 10, so I rate the game at 8 Aleph level abnormalities. I would try to rate it with more, but that is the most my compound could physically contain. Do not do this shit like I did, pick the easy abnormalities or you'll regret it. If I have the energy to get the review of the sequel out, it should appear here or in the description. Thank you for watching the video. Now, as per the management contract, you are required to join me on Twitch. This is not a choice.